Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another live stream. Right, first things first. I've got a bit of a cold, so if I sound funny or I start going into coughing fits, my apologies. Anyway, let's see how we can get on today. Not sure how long the voice is going to last, but we'll find out. Righto. So what have we been doing? Well, we've been evaluating Rust GUI technologies, and we've been using quite a few different ones, and we've been making a spreadsheet with the findings as we go along. And we've been looking at Cushy, and one of the things that I want when I'm creating desktop apps, it's 2024, and I feel rightly so, is internationalization support. Right? Not everybody in the world speaks English, right? I live in Spain, so, there's other languages around. So, what I need is a GUI framework which has first-class support for localization. And when I say first-class support, what I mean is one that's got it built in, and you don't have to rely on additional crates to make it work, right? We looked at i18n, doesn't have internationalization support. We looked at MakerPnP, doesn't have internationalization support. We looked at Floem, doesn't have internationalization support. You see where I'm going with this, right? Visio does have internationalization support, excellent. Freya does, excellent. And ZNG does, excellent. And the other ones, well, yeah, they're few and far between the ones that have it. And so far, I've been liking Cushy. I didn't like it to start with, but I worked around the problems that I had. And now I'm more familiar with it, shall we say. But it didn't have internationalization support. So yesterday, I took matters into my own hands, as any good software developer should be prepared to do. And what did we come up with? Well, we came up with this. We came up with this. Oh, look at it. Oh, it's just brilliant. Hold on. And this. So what we're looking at here is an example of localization support. Oh my god, it's amazing. So I can change the language, and it uses dynamic variables and everything. It's great. You can have multiple languages within the same user interface. It's exactly what you want. So I don't know whether you've seen the themes example in Cushy, but let me just bring it up and show you, because there are some similarities with the themes example. Let me run it. So within a user interface, you can have a user interface in light mode, or you can have it dark mode, or you can have elements of it in a fixed mode. And this is what the theme example looks like. Although for some reason it's not showing the text today, which is a little bit odd. It's possible that the developer broke something, but never mind. It's not me that's broken it. Oh, the demo gods. The demo gods. Normally there's text on each of these little things. But the point is, the dark bit is always dark. The light bit over here is always light, regardless of this setting. And the rest of the UI changes based on the value of the checkbox, which toggles the theme. So in the internationalization example, we do something quite similar. We have this bit at the top here, which uses the default language, or locale, right? Then we got another bit over here which uses a fixed locale, and then we have another bit here which uses a dynamic locale, which changes depending on the value of a dynamic. Right? That's the similarities. So yeah, so it works. Let's dive into the code a little bit and see what it looks like under the hood. Right, so we need to find the examples. Yeah, here we go. And if we close all the other tabs, there we go. So let's start at the beginning. It goes main, and then you define some translation files, and you say, Cushy, give me the translations. Add this one with this locale, and here's the string, which contains the FTL file. What's an FTL file? Well, for that you need to look at the Fluent crate. But here's an example of some translations. Here are the ENGB ones for the example. So you've got a message, which is like a key, and then you have a value for the key. And then if you compare that to the Spanish one, it looks like that, right? So you have the translations. And then you can also do things like this, where you say, this message needs to embed a value, and if that value is 1, then you have this message, and if that value is another value, then it displays this message, which embeds the value. Alright, that's how that works. And the American one looks pretty much the same as the English one, except that, you know, they use the word howdy instead of hello, right? Apart from that, it's fine. You know, there's many other differences, but for today, that's fine. So that's what the localization files look like. If you want to know more about those, look at the Fluent crate. It's got all the details there. Right. So then what happens? You create your app. You add the translations to the Cushy app, and then you say, create a bunch of widgets, create a window, and open using the application. Right, so this localized bit here creates some widgets in the usual way. Here's one, and this is how it uses the key. So normally you'd have just like a bit of text inside your code, and you turn it into a label. So normally it would be like hello world, and you would go into label, contain it, right? But that wouldn't be using any translation files. If you do this, it uses the current translation for the widget's context. So a window has a context, and any children context essentially inherit the same localization from that unless they're overridden. And the way that you override them is by using localized, and you give it a locale. Seems simple enough, right? So this works in the same way that the themed container works. So to do that, I created a widget. Where's my widgets? Come on, widgets. Where are you? Yeah, here we are. So the themed one works in a very similar way. It basically just wraps a widget reference with a theme and then applies that theme to the context when it's mounted. And the localized one works pretty much exactly the same way, except that it goes attached locale, and that didn't obviously exist before, and now it does. And then this wraps a container around. So this is using a specific locale which never changes. Then we have an example of some widgets. So we're creating a label here in the same way that we were here. And then we're creating a language selector, and we're putting it in a container. And the language selector is just like a radio button with some language choices. And then we're creating a counter, and there's no internationalization things on this except the fact that they use localize for the labels, right? These, right? And then eventually all those elements get put in a container, and then that container is then localized using the radio, the current dynamic, which is displayed by the radio button, or the radio buttons is dynamic, as in the dynamic that gets updated when you make radio button selections. Right. So there's a dynamic which is created here, and it uses language choices. Now, language choices is currently just an enum. We could get more complicated with this by making it a list and look at the list of translations that we've loaded and allow the user to pick from it. But for this example, we just did this. So we've got language choices. And for a given language choice variant, we can return a language identifier. And then the languages identifier is then what is used by this map each in order to give the localized method its argument, which takes a language identifier. Okay. And then each of those elements gets put in the UI, and when you run it, run the right example, there we go, that one. And when you run it, it looks like this. So again, so this is the first fixed one, default one, this is the fixed one, and this container has the radio and some buttons and uses the translation, and it works. Yay! Fantastic. All right, let's see. We're done for this live stream. See you. Bye. No. Oh, if only it was that simple. No, there's more work to do. There's always more work to do. So I created a pull request for this, which has got all the code changes. And there were quite a few code changes to get this working. And also we looked at some of the Vizier. I'll just give a shout out to Geometric, or the author of Vizier, because there's a couple of bits of code with regards to using the Fluent API, which I borrowed from that, which is great. Yeah, there was a couple of bits. Let's have a look. So we'll give them a quick shout out for this. Some of this bit will look very familiar to the author of Vizier, as will this bit, where we're dealing with the default languages and so on. But yeah, so there was quite a lot of changes to make this all work. And there was a bit of a couple of changes required to Cushy itself to make it work, which the author of Cushy very timely added yesterday as we were going through this, as we came up with the issues. Yeah, so yeah, we've got that. The link is in the video description for this pull request. But we've got some stuff to do. We've got API documentation, additional testing, and PR review and changes. I suppose I can do this top one. Let's go. Helpfully, when we try and compile this, it gives us a list of all the things that need to be done. And we need to clean up all these warnings here, most of which are related to documentation. So let's go clean this up. Right, so let's deal with this. Oh, okay, fine. What, it wants to be ANG? It does, doesn't it? Really? I suppose will be nice. Upper camel case. Oh. Oh, I buggered that up, didn't I? Okay, fine. Oh, it's supposed to be like that, isn't it? Okay, fine. Fine. This is one of those cases where it's like, just no. No. But sure, you know, we'll do it. Clean up some imports. Displayable into widget list. Oh, my ID is not helping me show me the ones that are actually used there. That's a bit odd. Yeah. Oh, and there is one other thing that I want to show you guys. Okay, now it's just missing documentation. So yeah. Okay, so let's do a quick commit for that. Clean up warnings. There we go. Yeah, so what happens if you don't have any translations? Let's show you. Let's see. This is what happens. So it tries to render the key hello message hello world, but it doesn't find it, and the locale is undefined. This is the system one, right? So it says no message locale, and here's the key that was missing. And we don't have any of the other keys either, and that's what it looks like. But it shows you the locale that it's trying to be rendered in, which I suppose is useful. Let's try not adding these two and see what happens. Ah, interesting, huh? Ooh. So what's happening there is that there is one translation file that's there, and it's being used as the fallback. Interesting. You see, that's sort of how it works. And you sort of want that behaviour, and it's possible that we could make it not do that. But you sort of want that behaviour. The reason that you want that behaviour is, say you add a new message to your main translations file because you're the author of it and you don't speak 50 languages, right? So you add the English version because you're English and you speak English, so you add it to the English file. And then you upload your translation files to some translation system, and it shows you what all the missing translations are, and then at some point they get added. And in the meantime, you want the users that have got missing translations to see at least something that they might possibly be able to use, or use an online translator to translate it into their native language while they're waiting for translations to be created. That's why it does that, instead of just showing the key. It's possible that we could like log missing translations and things like this, you know, but that's not how it works at the moment by default. So yeah, so that's how that works. Okay, let's go and add the documentation then. Oh dear, missing documentation for a module. Oh, I suppose we need to write some documentation. Here we go. Best time to write some documentation is when it's working. So module documentation is like this, right? Bananas. Let's see if the message goes away. Oops. Yeah, it did. Localized. Yeah, it did. Okay, good. So, module documentation. Let's look at themed for inspiration. Where's the module documentation for that? A little bit confuzzled. Oops. Why? Oh, it's because it's. Is it? Wait. What? Wait, hold on. Yeah, this one. Okay, I think I was looking at the wrong file. Fine. Let's borrow this and use it as inspiration for our module documentation. So, what does this file contain? It contains types, localize, dynamic display, translation collections, and all the rest of it. So, types for displaying a... No, it's not really this. Types for use. I want to create some value. Yeah. See, now I looked at the other one, and I probably shouldn't have done that because all I'm thinking about is the types. Localization. So we sort of want an example as well. Localization allows UIs to be usable, read, to be created, that support more than just one language. The basic idea is that instead of using strings throughout the application, you use keys that refer to messages in translation files. Yeah, something like this. Fluent is used. Probably should have a link in here. Let's say the Fluent crate is used for what? Is used to provide as a backend, and then translations are stored in FTL files. And then I suppose we can have like a little example. Is it like this? We've got the Rust doc thing. Who remembers what the Rust doc syntax looks like? I forget. Yeah, it was like that, right, yeah. I'm dying here. Yeah. I'm trying to work out how to include like examples in, but I can't find like code examples in the list of contents. Let's search for code. There's too many links. There's too many links. And let's search for examples. Yeah. Okay, well, I think I was on the right line. Something like that, right? And then, isn't there like a no run or something? No run. And then what does it do about importing? It is like that, isn't it? Yeah. So, base example of creating a label. Here we go. And then how do you refer to other stuff? I wanna create a link to the translations method. Creating links. Let's see if we can find another one. No. I'm just arbitrarily looking for like Rust docs which refer to another method. No, I might have to look it up. Oh wait, I remember where there was one. There was one in the widget thing, wasn't there? Yeah. I think this. That's an example of doing it. C and then a thing. And then we're looking for the Cushy thing. This. And we're looking for this. And in Java you can go copy reference, but you can't in this. Oh yes you can. Or maybe they've added it now. Fantastic. Let's see if it works. No. Line number, come on. So I guess this is create app Cushy translations. Okay, that works. Cool. How do you make this import in, like... Okay, we'll just do that for now. I mean, that might actually run, but let's just leave it like that, see what happens. Oops. Does help if you spell the name of the app right, doesn't it? Okay. So add localize and I'm not going to go totally mad on this documentation. I'm just going to do a first cut of the documentation. Missing documentation for a struct. Doobity-doo. I suppose documenting this is probably useful. It's probably a fairly useful way of explaining things, writing documentation. Yeah. What is this? The primary way of defining a message. Well, probably something like that. I'm going to start from the bottom because when you add these things, all the line numbers change on these. I don't think this needs to be public. There we go. Don't think this needs to be public either. Let me make it not public and see if it still compiles. Yeah. Should this be pub crate? Yeah, this is pub crate as well, isn't it? There are some things we don't need to document. Only the public things with. Now I don't currently use this. Yeah, one part of me says delete it if it's not used. Yeah, I'm going to delete it. Oops. We don't use it. I wasn't sure how the API would pan out, whether it would be a fluent one or not. But what ended up happening is that it was not a fluent API. Okay, so now this thing gets returned by the Cushy app, right? Yeah, so this one needs to be public. Yeah, and there was some implementation details with this. Yeah. Okay, we'll see how this pans out. Translations, add. I suppose we need this one. Translation file, the fluent FTL. Yeah. Given locale, I suppose. FTL, isn't it? Yeah, it's not immediately parsed. All it does is store the string, basically. I wanted it to parse it immediately, but the problem is that the Cushy struct needs to be cloned, and the fluent bundles are not cloned, so we need to wrap it in some sort of storage system or something like this, which we don't have yet. Is this public? Does it need to be public? Let's make it not public for now. Because this is just used as like the inner thing to this translations, basically. So that's okay. Into label, yeah. Yeah. Let's have a look at the other documentation for other instances of into label. Convert. I mean, yeah. Oh no, that's what I just typed. Yeah, because yes. I suppose it is a bit funky, isn't it? Okay, I guess. Now, let's use one of these link things again, like we just did a minute ago. Oh dear. Ay, ay, ay. It's not fun having a cold. Where did we do it? Oh, this was it. I can't remember the format for these links. How does it work? Square brackets, backticks, brackets. Okay. Square brackets, backticks, brackets. So it's what? Crate, widgets, label, label. Path prefix not necessary. Why? Okay. If it's not needed, it's not needed. Yeah. Okay, now what? Add an argument. Now this bit's a little bit funky. Let me show you how this works. So in our example over here, right, I glossed over this as I was quickly going over it. Some of you might have seen it. We had this. I specifically didn't go over it because I just wanted to give you an overview. So the argument works by taking the dynamic and then mapping it into a fluent number. Now, I'm not entirely sure that this is the right approach to do it, because it's exposing an implementation detail of a language system. You could argue that we already do that because we pass in FTL files and that is an implementation detail. So in that regard, it's fine. But maybe some of this should be hidden and some other classes are created to improve this so that the user doesn't have to be aware that the numbers need to be converted into fluent numbers, for instance. Because the translation system only supports certain types. The types that it supports are strings, numbers, custom, don't know how that works, none, and error. And I'm not a fluent expert. I just know that fluent was apparently the right thing to use, and I tried it with a number to start with. But it needs to be a fluent number. I don't know why, but it does. So yeah, so that's sort of how it works. So you have to map the dynamic, which is like a U32 in this instance, and it needs to create a fluent number from that value. Add an argument which can be used by the FTL. And I suppose maybe it's handy referring to some fluent documentation here. Rust fluent. Maybe not this documentation. Maybe it is. Let's have a look to see if we can find a repo. Does it have a home page? And a home page. Project Fluent. Fluent files. Wiki. Implementation Rust. Oh wait, hold on. That, yep, spec, that's what we're after. Is it this? What on earth is this? Okay, that's that. Fluent syntax guide, here we go. This is what we want. Variables. Yes, that's what we want. So, yeah. And then what? How do we create a link? Is it... Is it like that? Does that work? I don't know, it might do. We'll have to have a look at the generated API documentation in a minute to see if this all looks good. Let's search for other links. There are none. Well, that's a little bit surprising. Rust doc links. Like, I'm not sure about this Rust doc documentation. I just want like a list of all the things that you can do. You know, like when you go to Markdown, right? Syntax. We've got this, right? Rust doc syntax. Let's see if we can. Just want an overview of the syntax. Right. What is it then? So then you have to go, okay, well, I want to create a link. Where am I going to find links in the documentation? Let's search for it. And then you don't find it. Let's look for URLs. Oh, that's Fluent. Hold on. It does help if you search the right book, doesn't it? Linking to items by name. No. No. URL. Bare URLs. He's supposed to be. You see, you end up looking at. I just want to know how to create a URL. Just, where is it? How to write documentation. Go on then. Getting started. See, I don't want this. I just want a list of all the syntax. Task lists. Just want. Rust uses common markdown specification. Okay, so you're supposed to. Oh my god. Okay, so let's search for markdown syntax again. And then let's look in here for links. Okay, so we're supposed to do it like this. No. And close a link in brackets. They're not brackets. They're square brackets. Oh wait, maybe they are brackets, and I've just been calling them brackets. Parentheses. Yeah, all right then, fine. And then immediately follow it with the URL, like this. So did I do it right? It's just these little things that you don't do every single day, and you have to look them up. And when you try and look them up, it's a pain. Okay, I think I got it right. Okay, fine. So we've documented that. Now what? Localize new. Right. Well, you know, the primary. Yeah, I suppose this is what? Create a new localization. Instance. Should this be like this? Yeah. The key should refer to a valid key in the localization files. And I suppose we could link to the Fluent. Wait, hold on. So it's a message identifier. Valid message identifier. C, and then what do we do? Something like that. Okay, now what? Oh, I think we're on the last one. Missing documentation for a module. So this one has some documentation. Right, fine. This one needs this. So what does it do? I mean, yeah. It's kind of like, how should the module documentation be different from the documentation of the primary class that you use? Let's have a look at the theme one, because it's quite similar. Why does this have no module documentation on it? And it doesn't complain. That's a little bit weird. Where's themed in here then? So it's not public. Maybe it doesn't need to be public. Yeah. Is it because... But why doesn't it need to be public? Why doesn't... How? Why can't I create a new themed? I mean, this is public. Is it in the prelude or something? Is it re-exported? I'm not entirely sure. I suppose we'll find out. No. So, can I not create an example like this? I'm a bit weirded out right now. Oops. So, yeah, I suppose. Because you can go themed like this, right? So is the intention that you never call the, you never access that directly? Or is there some other magic way of doing it? I'm not sure. I'm going to make it public. I mean, oh, wait a second. Let me make it not public for a second. Go back to this and delete. Can we delete that from there? Because we've got widgets. Oh, I see. there's a There's a thing. Yeah, look. That's why. There's a re-export. That's why. And now we don't need module documentation. Curious. Okay. Buildy buildy. Okay. We've documented everything. It's perfect. Well, the basics are there. Add documentation, clean up, visibility, delete unused code, I think is what we did. Is that how you spell clonable, really? That can be cloned. Yeah. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, let's push that to the PR. Not origin. Now we're making progress today. And then I suppose we should have the commit on here now, right? Add documentation, yeah. So we can go back to this and tick the box. Now what? Are we done? No. No, we're never done. Do we want to do anything else to this PR at this point until we've had some feedback? One of the things I don't like is that it has to parse the translation files for every new window that you open. I don't have any good solutions on that. I asked in the Discord yesterday, but I'm not sure whether the author fully understood me, because his response was a little bit odd. So, do I just wait for feedback? Do we do something else? Let's have a look. So the way that this translations things works at the moment, right? It goes translations add. This is where the problem is. Like, what we want to do is parse the file now at the point we're adding the translations, and not every time we open a window. Oops, I've lost a shoe. There we go. Now initially, I had, oh my gosh, where does it go? Yes, I had this hash map here inside here, but that didn't work because this is not clonable. It's not clonable. And it needs to be cloned. It needs to be able to, not clonable, it's not send, sorry. It needs to be able to send between different threads. But you can't, because of various issues that you get. So I used the fonts implementation as a reference for when I was doing some of this, right? So if we look at fonts, right? We've got this dynamic font collection data, right? And this was using, I'm trying to remember where it was now. Yeah, no. This is doing the same kind of thing because this VEC U8 is clonable, right? So it adds them to font collection data. And it calls this push inner, and it goes fonts push, and it pushes fonts to a lots of arc of a VEC U8, I guess, which is also going to be clonable. But at some point, these fonts need to be loaded, and they're sort of, I think they're loaded as part of the graphics context or something like that. I think I found it in that's like on a per window basis. But really what I want is for them to be parsed straight away and then stored somewhere. Yeah. I think I might leave that for now. I don't like it, but I don't have any good solutions to the problem that aren't going to be like really involved in a bit of a faff. And it certainly doesn't make for interesting streaming, so I shall spare you from the details of that. Okay, so it's got a limitation. I noted the limitation in the pull request. Limitations. There. Some translation cache could be used in the future. Maybe someone else could implement that. For now, we've got translations. Yay. So, let's go back to our tab document user interface example and see if we can update it to use translations. And we're doing it at an early stage. Well, I suppose in the scheme of things with this tab document UI, it's actually a fairly late stage. But before I write my main application that I'm actually, that I want to write, for which I'm evaluating Rust GUIs, I want to have translation support from the get-go. I don't want to add translations to it later because it's a faff, as you're about to see. So we've got to add localization support in a branch, right? So let's check out the tab document with Elm branch and rebase it on this. And let's see what comes up. And this should just be the stuff that we've done. We did quite a lot of work on this. Yeah. Those are the commits that we want. Let's see if it rebases. Oh, 99 commits. Look, we're going to do 100th commit today, I imagine. Okay, so now we've got our tab document UI thing and the internationalization support. Let's find the tab document UI and just, you can have a look at it, see what it looks like now. Since the last stream, I've done a few things. Let's run it and show you. I'm still dying. Oh, it sucks. It sucks being ill. I hate it. Coughing and spluttering all over the place, sniffing and blah. Right. Come on, buildy. Here we go. So this is what it looks like now. It looks a bit different from the last time you saw it because I've made it so that it doesn't use hard-coded colours. Why? Theme. Let me see. So from the Windows control panel, you can you can adjust it so that you can go between light and dark, right? So the whole UI reacts to the system thing, which is good. So now none of the colours are hard coded. They all use the Cushy themes in order to do this. Yeah, so that's why it looks different. So I'm basically not too concerned with this, with making it look compact, nice, and sort of like more native-y, but there isn't native. I'm just going to use the Cushy default styling most of the time. And then hope that the default Cushy styling improves over time, because it's a faff styling apps. So right now it just needs to work and be functional. And you know, if I want this example to be merged as a PR to Cushy, you don't want this UI to look completely different to all the other UIs either. So it kind of makes sense to do it. Right. So we've got this, and we've got some things on here which need to be translated, such as sidebar footer, sidebar header, path, last clicked, home, new, open, close, all, and home up here. And on the text files we've got path and length. And I think that's about the scope of the translations that we have in this app. There's not many in this. And also, I don't think any of them use any arguments. Oh, and we've got these ones as well. So let's make it work. Come on then. So, if we go back to our localized example and grab this block. Right, somewhere we've got an app. Here's our app, and that was defined here because it comes in. So we get past an app. So I suppose we can immediately use it because we need to go app, Cushy, and then whatever. I'm a little bit... Oh, it probably just needs an import. Right. Okay. I don't know why language identifier can't be resolved. That's weird. Let's just try and compile it and see what happens. Can't find language identifier. Why not? It's probably because we're not re-exporting any of the Fluent stuff. Let's make it happen. Now I suppose we need to check the version of what I used in this, which might not even be the latest version. Oh, it's not that, it's this. It was this, wasn't it? Language ID comes from this. Okay, yeah. That one. Can we import it now? There we go. That comes from this crate, yeah. It comes from this this crate. Language ID does. So we've got this, and everything's fine. For this example, I don't really care about adding 3 sets of translations. I just want it in 2. So we're just going to do that. Although I'm English, I'm not going to use the English one. Okay. So currently this is looking for assets, translations, and then whatever. And we've got an assets directory. So we need translations en US. And we're going to need ES, which is España, Español. Okay, so we've got that. Go back to our localized example. And let's just take this one as our main one. Yeah, probably could have a different name for that file. Okay, well, we'll just leave it for now. I've not tried adding multiple FTL files for a given language yet. I don't know exactly how that works. We can find out at some point. We're going to paste that. We're not going to call it hello, though. We're going to call it translations. I don't know. Seems reasonable. And this is how they work. So let's start with the home tab. Toolbar. Button. Home. Home. And then we got new, open, and close all. Okay, let's make these work. Okay. Thus. So we've got translations, and we've got our app, and that's the wrong thing. This one. It's not hello, it's translations. Okay. So what we want to do is make the entire UI localized. Right? So where do we do it? We've got a pending window handle. And then at some point we create some UI elements. Thus, and we call make widget, right. And here we want to say .localized. And we need a language identifier. So let's create a new dynamic. Because we want to change the language in the application is what I'm thinking. Now, yeah, okay. What could we do here? Well, we don't really want a language identifier here. We want a choice. And then do we map the choice into an identifier like we did in the other one? or because we need to pick a language by default. Ideally, we want to pick the system one, but we might not have a translation file for the system one. Decisions. Kind of what I'm thinking of doing is making a vector of the languages that we've got and then defaulting it to the first one. Let's try that. Let's say languages.first like this. Okay, and let's go let languages, and it's going to be a vec of language identifier. I don't want to create an enum, and it's going to be a vec, and you go parsey mcparse a lot, and I know there's some duplication, and everything's fine. Don't worry, we'll come back and fix this. Let's take this from here. And just plot this here for now. Because we're already doing some of this stuff, right? Add once a language. Yeah, I suppose we can clone it and fap about, and I don't want to do this twice. Let's put that there. Let's clone that. And clone that. Right. Then we can use it here. We've got this, we've got that. Languages.first. There's always going to be one in there, and we've probably got to clone it as well. So now we've got a language identifier. Great. I think it's a bad idea trying to comment this out right now, so we're not going to tell people about that. Right. So what we were trying to do is localize the UI, wasn't it? This. So now we need to go language identifier, and this takes an int value, and a dynamic can be converted into a value. So now our UI should be localized, but nothing's going to change yet because we're not using any of the keys. So let's go to where we made the toolbar. Where is it? Somewhere we've got a there it is, make toolbar. Right, so now we go localized new, and we do that, but we don't do that. We go toolbar button home, and we import this. Do we go into label on here? Oh, wait. I'm using the wrong thing. Localize. That's why I'm getting confused. Localized is what you do to a widget, and localize is what you do to a string. Yeah. Initially, I had localized twice. but I decided that was a bad idea. This is local eyes. Right, so we do that, and we repeat for these. And then we run it. No we don't, because we've done something wrong. Fine, the path is different. That's okay. Then what? We don't have this file yet. Okay. Let's make the Spanish translations. Oh, what happened there? Copy, paste. There we go. Now, I haven't created any Spanish translations yet, so let's just leave these blank and see what happens. Nothing, because we can't change into Spanish yet, but... Right, we don't get... There isn't this. So I think we need to go into label first. And then turn the label into a button. And that might work. Yeah. Now I'm not sure if we might need to improve the API a little bit here to allow it to be converted into a button as well. But I think a string gets converted into a label and then gets converted into a button anyway. And we could look at that to see if that is true. Let's have a look for the code for into button. Where might it be? What is this on? This is on make widget. Is make widget implemented for string? I'm not entirely sure how that worked before. We can go back and have a look at some other point. But okay. Does it run? That's what we're interested in finding out. Does it show us the same buttons that it did before? No. Something's broken. And this is why we've got the additional testing as a tick box on the pull request. Let's see what happens. Failed to pass translation file. Yeah, it didn't like not having the translation file. Okay, the translation is defined. So let's just remove them from here completely. Okay, so we've got home, new, open and close all, but now they come from a translation file. Done. Okay. Right. What we've got to do next is go through the entire rest of the application, finding every single string or thing or string that is created by some code that needs to be displayed to a user in their native language. And if you've got a large application, that task is monumentally a faff. Which is why you want internationalization support built into your framework, ideally, and used from the moment that you start creating your application. Because if you don't, your life is pain. So here's the pain. Here we go. Right, so we're doing the make toolbar, and we've got this localized new yada 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 bit, and we're gonna have to use that more. So how do you find strings in an application that need to be changed? Yeah, right. You've just got to look everywhere. I don't know. Where do you start by looking? You could start by looking at the user interface. So how might you attack this problem? You might run the interface and then look for the things on it that look like they need to be translated. But what if you can't see all the things that need to be translated? For instance, when an error message occurs, how do you need to make that error happen in order to see the message, in order to find the string, in order to be able to search your code base to find where that message is living. It's a faff. I know, because this application is fairly small, I know where quite a lot of it is. So in our widgets, we've got this sidebar thing. And at the moment, we've got these hard-coded things. So I guess this is going to be sidebar header. These are going to be dynamic at some point anyway, but, you know. And the way that you... I got a bit ahead of myself there, hold on. So you go sidebar header, and you cut this. I suppose we can copy all this, and then delete this. And then find our translation file. This one. Paste that in. Put an equal sign in there, and remove the quotes. And then rinse and repeat. It doesn't need to be with capital header, does it? Yeah. Okay, sidebar header. And this is, you know, you don't want to be doing this for a large application, trust me. Right. So we've got those ones. Where else? Home tab, yeah. Label. This. Oh, this gets converted to a string. What are we going to do here? Oh, no. You see, it's going to change our API as well. Okay, we'll come back to that in a bit. We'll come back to that one. Home banner, I suppose, makes sense. Maybe. I think we need it into label. Oh, what happened there? And then what's this going to be? Home. Well, yeah. Show. Well, checkbox. I suppose it's a checkbox label. Adding some content to the keys is kind of important. There's probably some do's and don'ts in the Fluent guide, but you don't want translations to be misused, and the key should have a bit of context so that the translation author knows what translation to use based on the context of the key. So the message is show on startup, and it's used for on the home tab for a checkbox label, and then they should be able to translate it correctly. Because some translations, you could create a translation that doesn't make sense in another context. So you have to be a bit careful with that. I don't know why this has got a... It's a bit confused there, isn't it? I don't know why it's got this here. Weird. Is that going to work? Might do. Let's have a look. So, Home tab. It works still. And let's just verify that it is actually using the translation, so we're not just running an old copy of the code. Let's put an exclamation mark here. We've got an exclamation mark. It's definitely using the translations. We're good. Home tab. You know, it's working. So what else is there? So the Home tab, we've got to deal with this label. I think what we can do here is return the key. Yeah. Tab. Name. Let's go label. Home. I think this is what we're going to do, and then where this label is used, we'll create a localized instance at that point. Perhaps that might work. Or we change the API of this to be like into something or other, into string. Don't really know. But let's go with this for now. And here now it becomes obvious that you've got some context here, and this home is different from this home. So you've got one translation for the button and one translation for the tab name, and you might want different things in these cases. They're not always the same. So let's see where this label is used. Oh, you see, it's going to go very wrong. It's going to go very wrong. Yeah, no. No. I'm going to undo that. And the reason is, because if you've got a document tab, the label is created from a path, and the path is not a translation key. So we need to do something different. Yeah, I'm not sure what we're going to do there. Not sure. Not sure. Do we need to change this API trait to do something else? Should it like return an enum, which is either like a string or a localized? It probably should. That's probably what we need to do. We'll come back to that. Okay, so the documents, the image one has got these. And now our sidebar item wants strings. You see, it all goes pear-shaped. Now, why does it want a string? What does it do with the label? It calls into label on it. So should this be like something that implements into value string? Not sure about that. Yeah. Or should it just be given a label? Should we just give it a widget? Yeah, what do we do? So maybe we don't need to do into. Oh, sorry. I've got the wrong one here. There. Label into value. So we've already got that. It's already an into value, right? Okay, maybe it's not. Who remembers? Sidebar item. Let's find as a value string. Maybe. I can't remember. Let's go sidebar item path, because that's kind of what we want to do, right? Oh. But I don't think it's going to like it, because I don't think I'll localize. Yeah, it doesn't implement that exactly. So do we just create a label here? Yeah. You see, this is why you need to actually use it in a UI before you know whether you've actually created something that's going to work. You think you're finished, you got your example, and then you try and use it and you're like, oh, no. So our localize thing, it basically just stores the string in the hash map, and it's only at the time when it's tried to be displayed that it has the context available to it, and it's only when you've got the context that you know how to translate it, right? Because we've got an implementation of dynamic display, which has got a format which takes the context, and then you get the locale from the context, and then you can get the translation for the current locale, and then you can use that translation bundle to actually do the translation. Right? So there's no way that you can actually convert it unless you've got the current locale, and you don't know what the current locale is until you're in rendering. Yeah. So what can we do here? Probably our sidebar item should just take a label. That's probably the simplest thing. I think it should just take a label. And then a label is just a kind of widget, right? So what? Widget instance? That's going to be a problem. Self is this, and then sidebar item is defined as, I mean, we've got a value of a string. Doesn't need to be a value. Yeah, okay, so it's just two widgets. Sure. We don't need to clone it. I don't think we don't need to convert it into a label anymore. We can't go overflow on it. Because we have to deal with overflow. I don't know. I think the sidebar shouldn't know. I don't think we like that. We need something else. What? What can we use? This is where we were doing it. We were doing this. Let's go. What? Sidebar item label? Does it need to be dynamic? Do we always want to take localized things? Not really. I mean, we could. That's probably the simplest thing. Let's not overcomplicate it. Let's just make it take a localize. Localize isn't clone. Should localize be clone? Fluent values. Can fluent values be cloned? No. Because of this. You see, it just... Oh. Yeah. No, that ain't gonna work. So, why does it need to be clone? Does it need to be clone? Let's put this back for the moment. Right. It apparently doesn't need to be cloned. Okay, that's good. So sidebar items don't need to be cloned. Fine. Which means that we can indeed put a localize in here. Not sure about this. Let's just make this static for now and see what happens. Yeah, we don't need to clone it. So into label consume self. You see the API. Oh dear. Because it then does that, and then you get a dynamic display from it, and the self is. Oh dear. The API. You see, I'm not entirely sure whether this interlabel thing should be on here. It feels like we might need some other conversion-y things somewhere else. And yeah. No, it feels like we should probably be taking the widget, but then if we do the widget, we can't do the overflow. Should we be concerned about the overflow? I don't think putting localize here is the right thing to do. Let's make it take a widget instance. Can we make it take a label? No. Not really, not unless we want to get generic-y. Let's make it take a widget instance and just ignore the clipping of the label. It's already a widget instance, right? We just do it like that. Suppose we just need to do this, really, isn't it? You know. I suppose we don't need this either. Wait a second. That one. Okay. Interestingly, that's still compiled. So string implements make widget. Okay, let's convert this one back to our localize new sidebar item path. I'll make it a label. Let's see what happens. Yeah, look, it compiles. Yeah, so we can do that. It didn't entirely suck. Length. And it's reasons like this, the stuff that I'm going over with, which really just affirms my belief that if you don't design your system with localization support built in, just doing it later is just like the amount of places that this kind of stuff spreads to. It's just it'll blow your mind. It'll blow your mind. Righto. So you can see here how what an impact it has on like a sidebar like component, right? Yeah. Right. You know, maybe we can implement MakeWidget for this, because MakeWidget is apparently implemented for string. Because our API for this is something that implements MakeWidget. So I've got a feeling that we should implement MakeWidget for this, which just does this. Let's try that. Let's try it. Impl MakeWidget for localize. What do we need to do? MakeWidget. And then let's go self.interlabel dot MakeWidget. Right? How about that? Oh dear. Yeah, okay. Probably okay to do that. Borrowed data escapes out of itself into label. Yeah, because this interlabel thing is defined here, which is defined on static. Let's just implement it for the static one. Yeah, at some point we'll deal with non-static args and we'll see what happens. Magic. Okay, so we can do stuff. Right, so we've got these ones where we can create it from localized, and we've got these ones which don't. So we need to go localize new well, I suppose it's image last clicked coordinate, and then let's go to the translation file. We need to put the other ones in, but we're not supposed to do that. And we need to put the other ones in, which was sidebar item path. And then we need to look at the other ones of this. I mean, you could have last clicked as just like a basic one, but yeah, okay. Let's have these. And then the other one was length, right? Oh, and you see what we've done, look. Is a sidebar supposed to be hyphenated, isn't it? Look, okay. Sidebar, is it hyphenated? Who knows? Now what happens? Okay. So, last click, path, sidebar header, sidebar footer. Let's move these up here. Add some spacing. Rerun it. Okay, so we've still got this label to deal with up here. But I think we've got all the other ones done, right? You see? No. Spot the... Oh, wait. Spot the untranslated text. Have you seen it yet? It's down here. These. It just keeps going. Oh, this is going to be a problem. This is. This is going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. All supported. Now, the reason it's a problem is because it's not Cushy that needs to render these translations. Oh, dear. Alright. Or is it? No, it's not. The thing that's going to be rendering these translations is RFD. RFD is what's used to display file dialogues. And I'm fairly sure, I haven't looked, but I'm fairly sure that RFD does not use Fluent. We can have a quick look, I suppose. Before we forget, though, to do. Translate strings using current locale. Using, I guess, the Windows locale. Because we've got the window, so that's not too bad. Let's just look at this for a second. Window dot, and then this is a window handle, isn't it? A window handle. Yeah, it's a handle as opposed to a... Well, I don't know how we're going to do that. Don't know. That's going to be on the to-do list for a little while, I think, that one. Yeah. Because, you know, this needs to be in the user's language, doesn't it? It's fine whether you're within the GUI framework, but as soon as you step outside the GUI framework, then what do you do? I mean, no. Somehow we need to ask the window for its locale. Like, do we have a locale? I've got app message, update, app state, self. I suppose you know, we could put the language identifier in the application state, but I don't think that doesn't really help because you still need to ask the window for its translations, because the window has passed the translation files, right? You don't want to have to like copy them again. Yeah. Okay. We were going to have a quick look at the RFD, weren't we? That's what we were trying to do. External libraries, RFD. Let's look at the cargo file, because it'll tell us about the dependencies. You see, it's not got many dependencies, and none of these are internationalization dependencies. Yeah. Okay, fine. That's what I thought. So we need to do those translations and then give the translated strings to RFD. That's what needs to happen. Are we missing any other? Yeah, we're missing the window title. The window title. Right, we've got the tab document UI here. Now, this is going to be interesting. Let's see what happens. Titled here, it takes int value string. So that ain't ever going to work, is it? Int value. Yeah. Because dynamic display and all the rest of it. Yeah. The window title. You want to use translations in your window title, sir? Oh, that'll cost you, that will. That'll cost you. Well, that gets another to do then, doesn't it? Add translation support for the window title. I mean, if you had a window title, say, which is the name of your application, and then like it said after the window title 5 open documents, for instance, the 5 open documents bit is the bit that needs to be translated, right? But the name of the application probably, in most circumstances, probably doesn't need to be translated for the main window of the application. However, if you've got an application which sits in the system tray of your thing, and then of your operating system, or in the menu on a Mac or whatever like that, right? And then you open it, and maybe it's got 2 windows, a settings window. The word settings definitely needs to be translated, right? Because settings isn't the same in every language. So you do need to translate the window title. You do need support for window title translations. Let's add a note on here into this. Window titles do not currently support localization. There we go. Yeah, it's a limitation. First thing, is to get the PR merged. The second thing is to potentially add improvements to it, or should it do everything to start with and then merge it? You know, or do we want an iterative development approach? I mean, the widgets and the support for the widgets seems like the meat of the thing to me. That seems where the most value is. Okay, so we've done it basically, haven't we? We've done all the things that we can do until we have some other way of accessing the Windows locale in order to do manual translations. Fine. Okay, yeah. Okay, so let's add this as a separate commit. I'm not sure if that's the best way of doing it, but yeah, I don't know, because there's a couple of approaches to doing the initialization support. One was to use widgets themselves, but then you're just repeating all the stuff that's in the label. Okay, so great. Okay, let's go back to our main app, right? I'm going to delete the Spanish translations for now, right? So that we can do a commit. And then we're going to add, or shall I? No, come on, let's do it. Okay, come on. It's not too bad. See, but we can't see the Spanish translations yet. That's the thing. Right, let's run all these through a translator. Yoink. Like, I can't tell you whether this is right or wrong, but it doesn't seem barra lateral, a sidebar. I mean, it's true. And then this is page footer of the sidebar. Pagina's page, pay is foot. And then, I guess, ultimo click, show on startup. Pestana de tab. I mean, I'm going to go with it. I accept corrections. Thus. Oh, why is it double line spaced? Sure, it's fine. Everything's totes fine. All right. Now, one of the requirements for this is to be able to change the language using a drop-down. But unfortunately, there isn't a drop-down. So what we're going to do is use the other example that we created a minute ago, well, yesterday, right? Which has a way of changing the language, but yeah. How do you... so I suppose we need to create a widget. Oh dear. How do I create a radio button with a dynamic list of languages? Do I even want to do that yet? Oh dear. See, this is why I want a drop-down list. You see, creating radio buttons. So we've got a bunch of new radios, and we've got an and. Oh dear. It's going to look very silly if I try and use radio buttons for this. I don't have a lot of choice. Okay. We're just going to go with it and just... We're going to see what happens. So, where we create our application, we've got a toolbar. And we say make toolbar. And then we've got a bunch of buttons. And then we need some other stuff. So let's say, I'm just going to paste all this in here. This is like language choice. I don't want to use language choice for the new radio, and it's okay. Now, somewhere where we create our app, we created this language identifier, and where we call make toolbar, we're going to need to pass that in. And we'll clone it. Okay. So now make toolbar's got access to a language identifier thing, right? Which it can use somehow. Is that right? Are we doing the right thing here? Yeah. But new radio wants a value. You see widget list. Let's go. I don't know. Let's go. Well, I don't know. We've got a list of languages, right? We've got languages. Have we used the languages somewhere already? No. Okay, so we're good. Okay, so the toolbar's now got access to the languages. So it can iterate over them, and we can do stuff, I suppose. And I suppose we need to map them somehow into something else. And then I don't know. what? A vector of... I suppose a vector of what? Widget? Instance, maybe? And then radio new, because new radio is doing something, I don't know what. But we've got a value here. A new radio that sets state, which is this one, to value. Right, so the value for this is the language, and the state is the dynamic language. Is that right? Is that what we called it? No, we called it language identifier. That. And then we've got to go labeled by, and let's just use the language identifier again for now. No, let's be smart about it. We'll do this. But no. 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 I'm just gonna use the key for now. And then we'll come back and do that once we know we can change the language. Labeled by language.toString. And then what? Make widget. And it's complaining bitterly about some stuff. Expected vec widget instance, but found a map. Oh, well, we have to collect. Okay, so that works. So, language, radio, buttons. What can we do with this? We're making a row of them. So we want columns and then make widget maybe? No. Let's move this. And then let's put language selector make widget here perhaps. There needs to be 6 of them now. Okay, okay. Chance of this compiling? 0. Yeah, okay. So into dynamic, but language identifier is a dynamic language identifier already. And we've got this T needs to be the same as this T here. And this is a reference to it. So this probably needs to be clone. Okay. And then language identifier, and then we need to clone this as the dynamic as well. It's fine. Okay. Who thinks we can change the language? Me. You know. Ta-da! Look at that. There you go. No, we haven't got this one working yet. We haven't done that. But you can clearly see we've got an application that now supports multiple languages. Ta-da! Happy days. And here we can see that this bit is still in the wrong language. You see, so yeah. But we made progress. Progress. I don't know. I'm kind of curious to know what path really is in Spanish when referring to file system paths. Let's do a quick file system path. Router del sistema de... Okay, yeah. Okay. Router. Apparently it's right. Who knew? See, I get to learn some Spanish while I'm doing it. It's great. Wait. Where's my text? Where's my text gone? Where's my image gone? Wait, what? Has the latest version of Cushy broken some things? My image hasn't been displayed. My text isn't being displayed anymore. After I rebased. It's gone. It's broken. There's always something. Living life on the bleeding edge. You know. Okay, fine. So I suppose, what is this? Add internationalization support. Yeah, I suppose so. Well. So the first cut is that we've got support for 2 languages. We can improve the labels here. Let's go to do show human readable language names. To do use a drop down instead of a radio. Drop down / pop up instead of a radio group. I mean, in the user's current language. There's a couple of ways of doing this as well. There's a couple of ways of displaying the lists of languages. Because if someone's Spanish and they're looking for their language in a list, they want to be looking for Español, right? They don't want to be looking for the English translation of their country and their language. So they don't want to be looking for Spain Spanish, because they don't understand that. They don't know what to look for in that person's language, in this other language, whatever default language it is. So do you display each language in the native language, or do you display what it is in the current language and what it is in the native language at the same time? And you need this giant list repeated everywhere, all for the different languages. It's a faff. So in format, current, so this is going to be country in current language language in current language. Wait, locale. Dash, and then country in native locale, bracket, language in native locale, right? This, I think, is the best way of doing it. E.g. So it would be Spanish, Spain, followed by, my keyboard doesn't support typing the little N things, the little tildes above, because I've got an English keyboard, and yeah, I do have this Power Toys thing installed, but a bit of a faff. What am I looking for? I'm looking for assets, translations, ENES. This one is what I'm looking for. That. As an example, I think that's the correct way to do it properly, that everybody can understand, and you have to do this for every language that you support. So I suppose this example needs to be given the user or current locale of EN US display for ES. That's what you want to do. Whether it fits in the user interface or not is another matter entirely, but this is why we want a pop-up thing. And maybe the pop-up thing should display the code, and then when you click it, because then the code doesn't take up much space, then when you click it, it shows like a bigger list of actual languages. I mean, we could implement like a language selector thing. We're using layers. Because in Cushy there is this layers example. Overlays it's called. Well, there's layers as well as overlays. Oh dear. Let's go with the overlays example. This one. So we could make a button that when it's clicked, displays something else which allows the display of all the languages that you can click in lieu of a pop-up widget. You know, maybe it'd actually be better than a pop-up widget for this particular use case. Who knows? Right. No, not that one. Where did we get to? I think we were trying to do a commit. I'm fairly sure we were trying to do a commit. Yeah, we were. And we need to find out where my images and text's gone. Do we think the input example is currently broken? Yeah, it is. Oops. Oh dear. Oh dear. It doesn't show any text and you can't type into it. Also, my image in my tabbed document example no longer displays. Right. All right, moving on. Let's review the commit. Come on, let's do it. So, yes, translations. More translations, great. We added localize. We added support for those, yeah. Sidebar items and paths. Ooh, we've got this one here. Look, oh, there's always more. There's always more. What file is this? This is image. Yeah. So yeah. We've got this none thing here, right? Because when you've not clicked anything, it's supposed to say none. Oh dear. Oh dear. And again, this is another case where we need to use the localization system. Yeah, okay. So this is fix me, use a localized string for none here. Well, I suppose this is to do. So we've got a location, but we might not have clicked on anything yet. At which point it's supposed to say none. But this none needs to be translated into the user's current language. So we need to do something else other than that. I think this might be another case of so it takes the value. Yeah, maybe we just need to pass in two widgets. Probably just needs to pass in another widget and have but then when you repeat the optional thing. Yeah, we've got this funny case where we either need a string or we need a translated thing. I have to give that some thought. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Alright, let's carry on reviewing the commit. Yeah, so we got to here. We got to there. Next. See, again, it's like, spot the strings. Yeah. And this is content for a file. You see, how do you distinguish a string? You know, you've got a log message string, you've got file content string, and then you've got UI translation stuff. It's like you can't just search for strings because you'll find all of them, and you just need to translate them. So finding the strings that appear in the user interface is the fundamental problem that you have to deal with if you add translation support to an application at a later point in time. Yeah, it's a nightmare. Okay, so that one's okay. So we've got this stuff, we've got these, we're fine, we've got those, we've done that, we've deleted this. We're passing widgets in instead. We added the loading of the translation files, updated creating the toolbar, localized the entire window. Added a fix me or to do about that, and added another 2 to there. Then we updated making the toolbar to use internationalization support. We added language. I think this is supposed to be language. There we go. We added language radio buttons built from a dynamic list of languages that was passed in, and then we added language selector, which appeared in the right place on the first try, which was nice. So we've got buttons on the left, and then expand, and then more buttons on the right. That worked. That worked pretty good. Then we added dependency to the example for the language identifier, and that appeared there. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, but we need to pull this commit out. Make widget for localize. We need to put that one in here. Oh. And then rebase on this one again. $100 commits. There we go. Yeah. Make sure it still compiles and runs. No, not that example. This one. Close all. Come on. Yeah, so, you know, it works, isn't it? That's pretty good. Home tab, I mean home page, I don't know, which might be better. Home tab is fine. Let's push this up, git push, Hydra, add localization support, and the tab document example. Tabbed with that one. This needs to be force pushed because it got rebased. And we're done. So, you know, I think we're going to leave it there for today. The point of today's stream is to do the internationalization stuff, convert the application so that it uses internationalization support, and now it does. So I suppose we can tick off. I mean, yes, we've got this. 2 languages, English and Spanish. I mean, we've not got a language drop down, but I've already added the note. So let's say, what's the thing for warning? Emoji. I think it was this one, wasn't it? And then we want a warning that. That's what we want. Uses experimental i18n support. And we're going to say it uses this. Let's grab that again. I think I've spelled experimental wrong. There we go. That's a fact. So, you know, we've done that. Why is it? Oh, okay. I don't care about that. Excuse me. Update requirement state. Cool. Okay. We did it. No. I said roll back. Okay. There we go. So we did it. It's great. But, you know, there's some issues. No translation up here, no translation up here, and no translations down here. You know, it's better than nothing, right? It's a lot better than nothing. So, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I think that's where we're going to leave it today. So hopefully this was useful. And if you're using Cushy in the future, you can see where the origins of the translation support came from. Hi, welcome people in the future. Hope you enjoyed this. Hey, if you did enjoy it, don't forget to click the thumbs up button below. Thanks very much. So just remember, folks, it's only software. How hard can it be? We'll find out on the next one. See ya.